today we've got Amy Fletcher with us. Thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I'm a recent graduate from the University of Glassgow in Museum Studies, Theory and Practice. I specialised in accessible education and developing resources for autistic audiences and audiences with sensory processing conditions. During the first semester of my studies, I undertook a museum learning and interpretation course where we had guest lecturers who spoke a bit about the types of resources and programmes that they did. And I realised during that not many focused on audiences with additional support needs, specifically autism. Then in the second semester, an opportunity arose to do a work placement with the Hunterian, developing a pre-visit resource all about the museum itself to help with getting familiar with the museum environment. And then based on the success of that resource, a further placement was developed in the summer to create sensory backpacks and to plan and run the first ASD family session with the Hunterian.
Oh, ASD as in
autistic spectrum disorders, yes.
Okay. Would you like to talk us through the materials?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bag itself I wanted to be see-through so that the audiences can kind of see what is in the bag before they open it, because you don't want surprises usually. In the main section I wanted to include the pre-visit resource.
Okay.
So this is a resource that's available on the Hunterian's website. It details all information from arriving at the venue until you get in, and it includes information like where you can find chairs, where you can find emergency exits, how to use the lift, who you can speak to. So that's something that can be referred to during a visit. When the pack was developed, there were two big dinosaur-related exhibitions on in Glasgow, and as the Hunterian have their own fossils and collections that kind of coincide with it, I decided to theme the bag and the event on dinosaurs. So inside the pack we've got two different books, both themed on dinosaurs, one in dinosaurs and museums, and one related to the recent T-Rex tour. The idea as well is that there are books available that can be swapped in for readers at a higher age level. The hope overall is to develop and increase the range of books that are in there so that if dinosaurs aren't of interest, there could be some more and more age appropriate that can be taken round. The next big one, which I feel all museums should have, even if it's not in a sensory bag, is ear defenders. Museums can be quite overwhelming places for sensory, people with sensory processing conditions. Like this hall is so echoey, so having a set of ear defenders in can really help with engagement. We wanted to include some more toy elements to help, say, younger children or people who need a bit of time out just to sit, have some calm. So again, we wanted to keep it connected with the collections. There's animals, so we've got penguins, so just to have that bit of diversity.
Okay.
So we've got things for squeezing, things for just holding. The idea is that when someone is overwhelmed, they often look for different things that they can hold to get a touch-based kind of response. So whilst they're exploring the museum environment, they can have a choice of different types of materials that they can have to hold. There are also a mix of different, yes, so we've got some different visual resources. The aim was to tailor it to different types of communication needs. So some people are more inclined to use PEC style communication, which is picture exchange communication symbols. So I created different symbols for different areas within the museum space. It can aid for choosing where you want to go and structuring a visit if not knowing causes you to be overwhelmed.
It's a very simple thing,
Yeah.
but it might make a big difference in terms of the interaction that happen within the museum.
Yeah. The final thing is a magnifying glass. And the idea behind that was to help audiences to engage more closely with the objects on display, have a closer investigation, kind of aid with object-based learning. they were created using experiences I've had working with young people on the autistic spectrum for over 6 years, and the types of resources that we would take in bags that we'd make up for trips, or the kind of resources that we'd use when visiting museum spaces. Again, ear defenders, toys, books. So I knew from experience beforehand that each of these resources were things that different young people would engage in, as well as adult audiences, say if books were swapped in. Yeah.
And you also mentioned that this guide kind of prepares the audiences to what will happen, what they'll see. And did you say it was also available online?
Yes, it's available online, and feedback that we've had is that audiences beyond people with autism spectrum disorders have used and benefited from it, specifically audiences with dementia, because having the pre-visit information can prevent anxiety before visiting. So it's had a positive impact on those who've come along and visited the museum since its implementation. Other forms of feedback have been through social media. When it launched on Facebook, I think it was shared about 14,000 times, and it led to calls for other museums to implement or update bags to include more varied resources like this bag. So ear defenders were quite common, but not a lot had visual symbols.
Well, thank you very much. It was really useful, and I think it's a fantastic resource that can make a huge difference to many audiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.